It is 00:00, and you are listening to the Best of Bond with your hosts Tylord and Wubs.
I must say, it's lethal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best of Bond with your hosts Tylord and Wubs here. And we're back with the biggest episode of them all. I lost track of the number of episodes we've had, but this is going to be the biggest one so far. We're going to talk about the fourth James Bond movie, the one that's budget was double Goldfinger, which was $3 million. We're going to talk about the $6 million project Thunderball from 1965, directed by our boy Terrence Young, who directed the first two movies. He's back, and he's back with a bang. He's back like a thunderball, and we're going to be reviewing Thunderball. How you doing, Wubs?
I'm great. I'm feeling bigger and better than ever, like Thunderball was in 1965. It came out and just changed the whole landscape of film. Has never been the same since Thunderball exploded on screens in 1965. Raised the stakes for every movie going forward.
And wow, this was such a treat going into this. I hadn't seen it in years, I think. I hadn't seen it since before my surgery, and I actually haven't seen it since I read the novel. So this is like a brand new, fresh take on it. And oh my gosh, this movie is so fantastically awesome. All of that big, huge budget, they put it in the right places because, I don't know, we'll get to your opinion in a second, but this wasn't ever one of my favorite Connery movies as a kid. I think I saw Never Say Never Again before this movie, actually, and I kind of preferred Never Say Never Again. And this is probably the latest Sean Connery movie I ever saw, and so I don't know why it was never one of my favorites, but boy, did that change after this viewing. What about you? What was your previous opinion of this film before our most recent viewing?
I think it was always one that I felt was very entertaining. There's a lot of action in it. There's a lot of excitement. Everything you can really tell looking now through the progression, watching them in order. Everything's bigger. Everything's badder. You know, the women are more dangerous. The villain is we're dealing with Spectre again, but a even more sinister plot of facing a nuclear threat, and just everything's bigger and more exciting, I feel like. And this is truly a summer blockbuster film, I think. And when I think of summer blockbusters, this one just comes to mind. It's always going to come to mind since we were doing this in the summer. And very much the same way, when I was younger, I didn't really like it as much as some of the other Connery movies, I think. I still enjoyed it a lot, though. It was always entertaining, but it always just felt, something about it felt a little uneven or a little different from the others. And I think, having watched it this time, I think that may just be that they just went so big trying to follow up Goldfinger, and they did it in an amazing way with the other underwater filming and action sequences, that I tried to really put myself in the shoes of what was it like to watch this in 1965, and it must have been just unbelievable to see these underwater sequences.
And this was a record-breaking deal. Like we were talking about, that it grossed 140 million, and like it made more money with adjusted by inflation, or adjusting with inflation. It made as much money or more than Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it is the highest grossing Bond picture adjusted for inflation.
Oh my God. Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And you can see why, because of the big success of Goldfinger, so everyone was probably lined up to watch this movie. And I know we already said Goldfinger is where everything came together, but I think this is the one where it really all comes together strong. Like in every Bond movie since then is just like almost like a remake of this one. Like this is where the budget gets big. This is like the archetype of every like action movie ever since. It even felt ahead of its time. Like I know that it's only been 1 year between every movie. I can't believe they finished this movie in a year. For Goldfinger was released in '64. This was supposed to be released in September of '65, but I think they didn't. They needed more time, but still, they still completed it. It was released at the end of '65, which is amazing. That this movie, the big, huge movie like this, was completed in a year. But man, I was watching this movie thinking, wow, this feels like way even compared to Goldfinger, it feels so many like years ahead of Goldfinger. Even this how Goldfinger felt way ahead of From Russia with Love, and the same with From Russia with Love felt leagues ahead of Doctor No. This one, a few times when I was watching this, I thought, wow, this feels like an '80s like action movie or an '80s thriller movie. Like it felt really ahead of its time. It might just be that the budget is so good, like $6 million. But wow, what a treat to watch this movie, and and now we get to talk about it. And I guess it starts off the same as the previous two. We start with the gun barrel opening sequence, created by Maurice Bender, and this is the first time we get to see Sean Connery actually in the gun barrel opening sequence. And before it was stuntman Bob Simmons in the first three. Like I ever even noticed who the guy was, but
I didn't either.
that was Bob Simmons. We actually get to see Sean Connery. He has a little bit different pose. I kind of like it where he has his arm out. I like that classic like James Bond pose. And I have to say, this is probably my favorite music in a gun barrel opening sequence. It just sounds so crisp, and the bass sounds so good, or the bass guitar, the little riff, the ding ding ding. This is probably my favorite like composition of the gun barrel opening sequence. It's just so crisp and solid. What do you think about the opening in this?
I think it's great. Like you said, Connery's pose is a little different. He's got his arm forward really far, and it almost feels like when he does
Yeah,
the turn and shoots the gun that it's like a punch and a gunshot at the same time. The way he does it,
yeah.
it's got
Oh yeah,
this strong impact behind it that's a very appropriate for the character, I think, and the vibe they go
yeah,
for. Like you said, the music hits really
yeah.
hard. We're getting the benefit, of
Mhm,
course, watching it on the Blu-ray set of fully restored,
mhm.
very cleaned up film
Wow.
from the negative. I'm sure it was the
Yeah,
best version of this either of us have seen by
yeah.
far. High def audio,
Mhm,
all of it. It hits very hard, like you said, and it was a
mhm.
film that was so well produced. It does feel like it was pretty far ahead of its time with the budget that they
Yeah.
had and all of the action
Mhm.
sequences that they undertook.
Oh, and I guess up until the laser disc release of this, I don't know if you heard that in the commentary. They didn't have a definitive version of the theatrical release of this movie. I guess every region the VHS tapes had stuff cut out, or the sound was off, and certain there was different stuff added to the sound, the audio tracks, and stuff wasn't quite right until the laser disc release of this, where they put it all together. So I'm sure they've even refined it more by then on this Blu-ray. It looks so good on the Blu-ray. Like you said, it looks like it was just filmed yesterday, like a movie filmed to be in the '60s yesterday.
Right.
It was so clear.
One of the things I
But
noticed
and we start. Yeah,
was
yeah.
that because of how clear it is, I could see
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I'd never seen before. It actually made it, in this film in particular, more clear to see where they were using back projection in different scenes that
Yeah,
you might not have expected.
yeah.
We'll get into that later, but I just wanted to mention that quick since we
Okay,
were
yeah.
talking about the
No,
quality.
yeah, yeah. Before, you're right. Yeah, some of those back projections I didn't notice before, but I noticed with this just because it's so clear. Yeah, just like the great the locations in this movie. We start off in France at that chapel where James Bond is at the funeral of one of his adversaries, Colonel Bouvard. and he's kind of bitter that he didn't get to kill him himself because he killed the guy had killed a few of his colleagues, and then he follows his widow home to that beautiful chateau. And then we find out that woman is not really a woman; it's a man, baby, and it's actually Colonel. It's actually Colonel Bouvard, and played by our boy Bob Simmons, who wasn't in the gun barrel this time, but he gets to actually play a villain in this movie. He actually plays Colonel Bouvard, and it was actually a female. Did you know that, playing Colonel Bouvard until he punched him?
Yes,
I didn't realize that. I guess
in the chapel and getting into the car,
yeah,
and it's not Bob
yeah,
Simmons until he comes into the room with
yeah,
Bond, right?
yeah. I think maybe up until he punches him, because you see
Right.
like through her veil, like that looks like a woman, baby. Like that's an attractive man there. So, but then I think after he punches him, here comes Bob Simmons out, and doing all kinds of cool fight, and it's that sped up stuff we like, and it's such a reckless fight in this beautiful chateau with all this fancy, expensive furniture. It would be really unusual to see something like that. All this fancy stuff getting destroyed, this beautiful chateau, all that stuff's probably worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're just smashing it all. And I even see Bob Simmons did. I like to point out, like the judo and the wrestling moves. He does the Tomonagi throw to James Bond with the little sacrifice fall down, like the Captain Kirk throw. He does that to him, and pretty brutal fight. Like even Bouvard gets the poker for the fireplace, and he's like beating Bond with it. Pretty cool fight. What do you think of the opening fight scene?
It's really exciting in a way that I think the previous opening scenes weren't, because of how fast the editing was, the action. It
Yeah,
really gets your heart pumping right from the beginning there, and it's
yeah,
so unexpected. James Bond hits just, I mean, we've seen him hit women before, but this was closed fisted.
yeah,
Like, it's just a
yeah,
really brutal hit.
yeah,
And then you
yeah,
realize, oh, it's a man, baby, like you said. Okay, well, that's okay then. Yeah, he can close fist.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and then it just takes off this
and
incredible fight, right? It goes so fast.
yeah,
I watched it though several times because it does go so
mm-hmm,
fast, and I was so
mm-hmm,
taken aback watching it the first time. I was like, I have to watch this again, because there is
yeah,
so much choreography that happens in this
yeah,
fight that only makes, what, maybe a minute of screen time, maybe two at the most.
yeah,
But
yeah,
just all of the arranging that had to happen, like you said, they're destroying this whole room. They had to. There was a
yeah,
ton of choreography and timing that had to go into filming this. What was ultimately edited down into a
mm-hmm,
very short, exciting
yeah,
fist fight sequence.
yeah, yeah. It
Which
was
used the
wonderful,
whole
and then it
environment, and they talked about that too, right? Bob
yeah,
Simmons. I listened to him on
uh,
the commentary. Bob Simmons was talking about what it was like to do this, and or somebody else I think commented on Simmons' technique,
mm-hmm,
and they said that he was so good at using the environment for everything, like, and that's
mm-hmm,
why so many things were incorporated into this scene. So, like, they break the table, the bookcase comes down, the curtains, he's beating him with the poker from the fireplace. Like,
yeah,
everything in the
yeah,
environment is being used. The desk gets used as a weapon, I think, at one point.
yeah,
And it's just
yeah,
it adds to the brutality, the raw brutality of it. It reminded me a lot of the fight in at the end of From Russia with Love, in a way. Just it involved
yeah,
more of the environment.
yeah, and music playing this time. And then it ended pretty brutally. Like he chokes the guy out on the fireplace with the poker, and like you actually hear his neck crack. Like he either
Hmm.
cracks his esophagus, or you hear him like crank his neck and you hear it crack.
Right.
And then his cronies run in, and then he grabs the flowers and throws them on the corpse. And then we get to see the first gadget of the movie, a jetpack, which was actually a real jetpack with a real guy doing that, which is pretty amazing.
I didn't know
He
that.
flies off the top of the shot. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. The close-ups you see Sean Connery on back projection, but there was actually a guy flying that thing, which is pretty incredible. And then we go back down, and we get to see the beautiful little Aston Martin there again with his lady friend there, in the Aston Martin with the bullet screen back there, and then it's the water like a fire hydrant just starts squirting the guy.
Yeah, it absolutely
So a pretty
drowns
fun
them.
little opening. Yeah, pretty fun little opening though, like really fast paced. And then it goes right into the opening title sequence, which is fantastic, and we get to hear Tom Jones sing that Thunderball song. Was probably one of my favorites. What do you think about the opening titles in Thunderball?
It's Maurice Bender again. You can't take anything away from him. He
Yeah,
never did a bad title sequence. I wish I could say that,
yeah,
it was like, oh well, this particular element or whatever, but it's Maurice Bender. What else do you need to know? It's fantastic, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
So, um, and yeah, the song as well. Tom Jones, I believe John Barry worked on the arrangement of the song. Is that correct?
yeah.
And you can really tell, right? Because it's the orchestration is very exciting and loud, and just like all the things you'd
Hmm.
expect from a John Barry title theme. It's
Yeah,
it's it's all there in the Thunderball song.
I'm thinking of this, not only the song but the whole sequence altogether is probably like one of the most iconic, probably the most Bond sounding song of them all, like up there with Goldfinger. I think I kind of even like this composition. I like the song more than Goldfinger, actually, like just the chord progression and the way it sounds. I just like this song a lot.
Oh wow,
um
that's interesting.
and
Yeah.
the it has the women swimming in there,
Mm-hmm.
which were real naked women that they just have their silhouette. You can see a lot more in certain parts on the Blu-ray.
You sure can.
um and then they had, yeah, there's the scuba divers and the naked women swimming around, really cool looking, the bubbles. Probably like the most iconic like opening title sequence for a Bond movie. And I don't know if you watched the second commentary, but they actually played the Dionne Warwick rendition of Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang to the title sequence, and it fits into it perfectly. Like they must have
Oh,
just.
wow.
I think last minute they put Thunderball in, and I love Thunderball song, but I love that other song too. And there was even a Shirley Bassey recording of it. There were
Right.
two different recordings.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the Dionne Warwick one better though. Like I just like the way it's arranged better, but it fits perfectly. I don't know if you watched the second commentary, but it fits perfectly into that title sequence.
I will
It's really cool though. But
I will
yeah,
have to go back and watch that because I missed that. Actually,
mm,
I didn't get time to watch the second commentary,
okay,
unfortunately. But
okay.
that is
Oh
so
yeah,
cool that they synced it up because I knew about the song and I knew
yeah,
that
yeah.
they had intended to
Mhm,
use that for quite a while as
mhm,
the title track. But then
mhm.
right at the last minute, I think wasn't it Albert Broccoli
Yeah,
who said, "No, we need a title song that is actually the title of the movie,
yeah,
Thunderball."
yeah, yeah. So that would have been the first one that doesn't have a title song that's the name of the movie. I think the only other one I can think of are Goldfinger or Doctor No doesn't have a song, but Octopussy doesn't have Octopussy in the title. That's like the only one I can think of.
Hmm.
Um, I guess Casino Royale, right?
Yeah, Casino
but
Royale. And
yeah, but
Quantum of Solace.
Quantum, right? Yeah, and I guess Spectre. Yeah. Anyway,
Hmm.
a
Right.
different story, but I don't know, the Tom Jones one I really love though. I'm kind of glad they did use that, because even I'm surprised they were even able to fit some of that song into the score too, because you hear it like weaved into the score a bit, and even at Largo's party, or it might no outside of the casino, there's the party going on, and you hear it playing like a jazzy version of Thunderball. It sounds really cool, like a
Right.
loungy, soft jazzy version. Yeah. really cool. As much as I like From Russia with Love and Goldfinger, I think this soundtrack blows them all away. The score, like this is the Bond sound. This is like the Bond sound that every movie tries to be ever since. Every music cue in this is beautiful. If there's an underwater scene, the way John Barry composes it, the music sounds like it's underwater, just by using instruments. It feels like it's underwater. Just great stuff. The music.
Well, and
then
that chord progression too, in the song,
yeah,
I think Barry uses it a
yeah,
lot in the movies that come after this, right? They're even
yeah,
from Thunderball, that da da da,
yeah,
like that's in a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
them, right?
yeah, yeah. It almost sounds like the Bond, like da 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 da. Yeah,
Yep,
you're right.
right.
Yeah,
So it's like I feel like,
It's so Bond sounding. Yeah,
yeah, it just flows
yeah,
from, like you said, there's something
hmm,
different that it hits a little harder in this soundtrack
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Great stuff with the intro there, and then the plot of this movie is probably the biggest plot so far. Um, After watching the first three movies had really wonderful plots. This one's probably the biggest scale, like world-threatening event here with nuclear arms. Um, man, this really after the last few movies, this one really feels like a high scale. Like this is on the highest level. This movie, the danger and I think the suspense too. Like is the last one was kind of more of a like I was saying with Guy Hamilton's movie, you never feel like Bond was really in trouble. Like he's so smooth, he gets out of everything.
Right.
And this one though, I was actually scared for Bond a lot during this movie. I think this is a high attention, the tension, the suspense in this one's a lot greater than the past three movies.
Yes.
Um, Maybe there were some certain points in From Russia with Love, maybe, but I think overall this movie like is more of a nail biter than any of the other ones previously. And
Absolutely.
I don't want to just say the whole plot. I'll just read the back of this VHS tape as I've been doing because I don't want to try to explain the plot. So the plot. Here we go. The thrills never let up as James Bond dives into this riveting adventure filled with explosive confrontations and amazing underwater action sequences. As 007, Sean Connery brings his characteristic style, humor, and magnetism to one of the most exciting films of the phenomenally popular series. In a bold, deadly scheme, the evil Spectre organization hijacks a NATO plane and seizes two atomic warheads, each capable of killing millions of innocent people. As the world is held hostage by the threat of a nuclear nightmare, Bond jumps into action, racing against the clock as the trail leads him to a tropical Nassau. There he meets Emilio Largo, played by Adolfo Celli, a high-ranked agent of Spectre, and stunning Domino, played by Claudine Auger, with whom he shares an irresistible attraction. The confrontation builds to an epic battle on the bottom of the ocean floor as James Bond and his allies fight to avert a catastrophe of immense proportions. From 007's thrilling jetpack flight to the heart-stopping clash with Largo's killer sharks, Thunderball is a stupendous mixture of action, romance, and edge-of-your-seat suspense. So, what do you think of the plot of Thunderball?
It's like you said, it's bigger than the others. There's more at stake.
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't a lot at stake in the others in their
Mm-hmm.
own ways, but this is the first time James
Mm-hmm.
Bond
Mm-hmm.
averts a nuclear event that it would have
Yeah.
destroyed, with the ability, the possibility of destroying a major metropolitan city and killing potentially millions of people, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a big, the stakes are high, and unlike
Yeah.
Goldfinger, which also dealt with atomic weapons, but
Mm-hmm.
Goldfinger was just a bank robber. He just wanted to
Yeah.
increase the value of his gold by irradiating the U.S. gold supply and disrupting the
Yeah.
prices. So, I mean, not that obviously a lot of people would have been killed had his plan worked, but it was still kind of in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't like dropping a nuke or setting a nuke off in a major metropolitan city, the
Yeah.
way this is.
Yeah, I think the stakes get a little bit higher in each movie, and I think it peaks out like right here or the next one that we're gonna get to. Yeah, so this is very similar to the book. I think this is probably the last book. Well, Honor Majesty's is pretty close, but I think this is the last book that's very similar, movie that's very similar to the book, the plot. By the stealing of the warheads. I think it was written by Ian Fleming and Kevin McClory, who I think lived in the Bahamas, and he wanted a Bond movie in the Bahamas. I think it was a collaboration with Ian Fleming and another gentleman. I think his name was Jack Whittingham. All wrote this one. So, and you see Kevin McClory's name in the credits as a producer, and you never saw anyone but Saltzman and Broccoli as a credited producer before this. I don't want to get into all the behind the scenes drama with that, but or we can if you want to, but
No, that's all right. We can talk about that
yeah,
another time. I just think it's interesting that this is
yeah,
a film based on a book that was a collaboration. It
yeah,
wasn't just Fleming writing it by himself.
yeah, and yeah, and like I said, the plot of the book is very similar. I can't really think of too many differences in it. It ends the same. It starts off the same. The health clinic. I remember when I was a kid, I saw Never Say Never Again before this, and I didn't know the significance of Never Say Never Again. And then on television, I finally got to see Thunderball, and I was watching it, and I just thought maybe every Bond movie he goes to a health bar or a health clinic. I was thinking, wow, this kind of seems like Never Say Never Again. And then he meets up with Domino, and she says, and he says, "Oh, my dear uncooperative Domino, how do you know that? How do you know my friends call me Domino? Oh, it's written on the anklet on your anklet." It goes, "What sharp little eyes you have!" And as she walks away, where do you get to my teeth? but I go, whoa, that's Domino. This is like the same story as Never Say Never Again. And then I realized like there's Largo and there's the Disco Volante. They called it the Flying Saucer in Never Say Never Again, but they have the nuclear warheads. Well, this is Never Say Never Again. I was geeking out because I love Never Say Never Again. But the plot of the book is very similar. It's the first time in the book series where Spectre comes along. So it's the first book with Blofeld. It's the first of the three Blofeld stories. There's, I guess you call it like the Blofeld trilogy. This Thunderball, then On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and then You Only Live Twice. But it kicks off that, and just as I was going through the novels, I was really realizing, just like the movies, like once you get to this one, like the stakes are way higher than the previous books. I'd say
Yep.
maybe other than Moonraker, in the book series, maybe other than Moonraker, like the stakes were way higher in this one, and I kind of felt that watching the movies recently on our recent viewings, like the stakes just get higher and higher, and it like peaks out at this one, and we even get Felix Leiter in there. We'll get to him later, but very similar to the book. I know, unfortunately, in the book there's no Fiona Volpe. But other than that, I remember it being very similar.
And I think that Fiona was a critical addition to the story. And
Yes,
that was
yes,
yet another way that they upped the ante on this one, because Honor Blackman
yeah,
as Pussy Galore and Goldfinger was, I guess, well, I mean, if you're not counting, what's her name from Doctor No, Miss, what was her name, Miss Taro.
Miss Taro.
Yeah, which was
Yeah,
still an evil villain and everything, but she wasn't
yeah,
really in that much of
yeah,
the film. She didn't have a lot of
yeah,
screen time, unlike Pussy Galore.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
but I just wanted to make the point that really Fiona Volpe is far more sinister than I think any of
Yeah,
the women that had come before that were actual love
yeah,
interests of Bond. Now, obviously,
yes,
you could say
yes.
that what's her name from Russia with Love, the the evil
Rosa
Rosa
Klebb.
Klebb. Yeah,
Yeah,
Rosa Klebb. She was
yeah,
very sinister for sure, just as
yeah.
much as Fiona Volpe. But I think with
Hmm.
Fiona, it's so interesting because she's really the counter. She's the first Xenia in a way, right? She's like an
Yeah, yeah,
agent who uses her sexuality just like Bond does to get
yeah,
manipulate and get what she wants
yeah,
and all of that. And so it's the first time those two things have really gone against each other. And she even makes
yeah,
that whole speech about how every woman is just falls at Bond's feet as soon as he sleeps with her
yeah,
or whatever, and
yeah. And
and
they
they
turn
turn
to
good.
they turn to the path of yes, yeah,
Right.
but not with her, huh?
But not this one,
What?
she says.
Yeah. So that's like a direct reference, I guess, to Pussy Galore and maybe
Right.
Jill Masterson, maybe even Tatiana. Like it was a direct
Hmm.
reference though to Pussy Galore there. That was pretty cool. And she's
So
really more hands on.
she's, yeah,
Oh,
more hands-on and more severe,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
than they've been before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Great stuff with that. But then I guess the man himself, Bond, in this movie, I think he's still at his peak in this one. Like Sean Connery, this is funny as ever and good looking as ever. I think he's even more built in this one. I don't know if it's just the clarity of the Blu-ray, but he seems like even more jacked in this one. Like his body, his physique seems. I guess probably because a lot of the movies he's topless, baby. But he's got like a really good physique in this. I guess he did in the other three, but it's more noticeable in this one. But what do you think of Sean Connery in this?
Yeah, he absolutely maintains his physical presence, and his action is
Yeah,
great. Of course, you can tell he's gotten really comfortable with the role after Goldfinger,
yeah,
and who wouldn't be after you'd made Goldfinger? You're James Bond, I'd say, at that
yeah.
point. So
Oh, yeah, yeah. Heck yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
yeah.
They went in, they doubled down on the budget and everything
Hmm.
really that we've talked about, and I think Sean Connery was great
Yeah,
again in the role.
yeah.
And
Heck yeah,
what you were saying about Never Say Never Again, it's interesting. It would be 15 years later when they made that, right? Is that right?
yeah,
14, 15?
yeah,
That's how appropriate Sean Connery was for the role, I think. Like he makes the same film 15 years later.
yeah, yeah,
Basically.
yeah. And yeah, and he was in pretty darn good shape in that one too. He had to be in his 50s, huh?
Yeah. So he was still in good shape
Yeah,
and all that. They
yeah,
did, there are
yeah,
a few things I did notice. They definitely colored his hair and gave him I think they
yeah,
probably colored his eyebrows as well. He looks his hair and eyebrows look
yeah,
much blacker than they did in the earlier films. Uh,
yeah,
so they tried to make him look younger, I think, which
yeah,
really, from my perspective, I know what I can see why they did it, but I also kind of feel like
yeah.
if I'd been directing or on set, I probably would have said like, no, James Bond is an older
Just give him some gray.
gentleman,
Yeah,
like just the character. This is not he's not a particularly young
yeah. Just give
man.
him some gray.
Yeah, let him
Yeah,
naturally have a little bit of gray hair. The thing that's so cool
yeah,
about James Bond is in my opinion, one of the things that's so cool about him is the fact that he's a little older. He's not just a 20-year-old,
yeah,
punk kid, just super full of himself. It's like James
yeah,
Bond's confidence comes from the fact that he's lived the life of James Bond. So
yeah, yeah. He has a
he's
lot of experience.
experienced. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love his humor and his little one-liners in this movie. I didn't realize, but I guess a lot of the actors would improv and write their own lines. I think one of the writers, I think his name was John Hopkins, was saying they would Connery and Luciana would kind of improv that even that scene where she confronts him and captures Bond. I didn't realize this, but Sean Connery always has a lot of one-liner jokes. Like when he leaves the health clinic and he's saying bye to Patricia, he's saying, "Well, another See You Another Time, Another Place. And he goes, yes, another time, another place. And I didn't realize that was the name of a movie he had been in. Sean Connery, another time, another place. I always just thought it was a cute little line, like just the way he delivers everything. It's funny and charming. So I just always liked that, but I didn't realize it was that. And the same thing in From Russia with Love, when he blows up the helicopter, he says, I'd say one of the aircraft is missing. I guess that was the name of another Harry Saltzman production. Something about an aircraft being missing. I didn't realize that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That
But
makes more sense
I
now that
guess
they did that.
Yeah, so I didn't realize. I know there's quite a few more of those. He throws in little one-liners that are like inside jokes, and I never knew any of this.
Wow.
But yeah, and as far as the action, I always thought Sean Connery did most of his action scenes, but on this, I can tell, being on Blu-ray, there was a stunt double a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like the part when I always thought when I was a kid that was Sean Connery that jumped off of Largo's roof and landed on his feet. I go, well, that's a pretty cool stunt. But they edited it so well that you just see the stuntman up there jumping out, or Sean Connery crawling around, and then you see the stuntman, and you can't really make out his face, and then he jumps down, and then there's Sean Connery. I thought that was a pretty seamless editing. And the editing too is really good in this. I don't know, we can talk about that later too. But yeah,
Sure.
Bond is impressive as ever, looks as good as ever, gets all the ladies as ever. This is a good one for women too. He starts off with his lady friend in Paris. Or he's in France. I don't know if he's in Paris, but he's in France at the chateau. I don't know if that's one of his assistants or a contact, that French woman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he gets on with her. But then we see him with the at the clinic with Patricia. And he really gets aggressive with her. There's a scene I really love where she's checking out. I don't know if she's checking out his injuries or whatever, checking out his muscle, or she's checking out his back, and she goes, "Put your arms over your head, please." And she's checking out. I don't know whatever physicians do, or chiropractors, and she's checking him out, and he has his hands up. And then when she's in front of him, he brings his hands down around her and just grabs her and starts making out with her. and she fights out of it. She goes, "Behave yourself,
Mr. Bond."
Yeah, but that really reminded me of a passage in Moonraker, the novel. I don't know if anyone else gets that, but there's one scene where Bond and the leading lady are swimming around trying to scope out. They're swimming around trying to scope out Drax's property. They're looking for a cave, and they're swimming around out in the ocean. And then Bond dives underwater. And this is a girl just as like a fellow agent. He doesn't have a romance with her at this point. He dives underwater, and then the girl is up there, and she doesn't know where he is, and she's looking around like, "Where's Bond? Where's James?" And then he comes up from underneath her with his arms around her and gives her a big kiss. It kind of reminded me of that. It kind of reminded me of that.
Yep.
But yeah, what do you think of Patricia? Pretty blonde girl. I don't know if she was a model, and she may have acted a little bit, but what do you think of Patricia? Probably the first Bond girl he has some physical contact with in this.
Very, very believable as a health club nurse, right? She's not as slim as or as dainty as Domino. She's much more built. You can tell she's strong. She's probably, which is good, right? Because it makes sense. A nurse should be able to move people around when they're passed out, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So makes sense. I thought she was very well cast for the role. Very attractive, of course, and her chemistry with Connery is great. I think they have a fun back and forth.
Yeah. After he's in bed with her for a long time, he goes snooping around and causes problems. and then he hits the alarm and comes back, and there's that other pretty girl out there. She goes, "What?" She goes, "What is it? What's going on?" He says, "I don't know. Could it be a fire?" And then here comes Patricia out putting her robe on. "No, it most certainly could not be." She goes, "Didn't you have enough exercise?" And he goes, "Oh, fun, you should mention that." but Yeah, great stuff. Oh, and she's the first one. We kind of get a little bit of nudity. You can kind of see her backside in this.
Right.
When they go into the steam bath or whatever.
Yep.
And all these movies are PG, so that must have been pretty risky back then. Yeah, then I guess I'll save Domino for the last Bond girl. We get to see again Martine Beswick. We get to
Yes.
see again who played one of the gypsies from the fighters uh from Russia with Love. Probably a favorite of regular of Terrence Young to put in movies. Beautiful girl. She plays his assistant in this in the Bahamas. Um, we get to see Martine Beswick again. We get to see her in a bikini on the boat. She's always wearing a cute little outfit in this. And she's kind of sad when we meet her demise, or she ends up taking the tablet to kill herself. So Largo's men are torturing her, but we get to see her. What do you think of Paula in this?
Yeah, it was very sad that she died for sure, and but it definitely
Mm-hmm.
acted as a great catalyst at that point in the film. You really wanted Bond to get
Yes,
Largo after
yes,
that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's like I said. One of the points in this movie that's a really nail biter. This is probably like the most suspenseful Bond movie up to this point because of stuff like that.
hmm And she was beautiful, of course. I think it's so cool they reused her from Russia with Love,
Yeah,
and she said that
yeah.
what was it? Terrence, she was gonna be cast in something else, or she wanted another role that in a movie Terrence was working on, and he told her to get more experience.
Mm-hmm.
So she flew to London, I think, and took some classes on acting and things. And then by the time she
Mm-hmm.
had done all that, he was casting for Thunderball, and
Mm-hmm.
when in the interview
Mm-hmm.
she said, and he was true to his word. He hired me for Thunderball.
Uh, oh,
Yeah.
oh, excellent. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
And then, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I guess the big Bond girl of the movie, the leading Bond girl, Domino, and what's her name? Claudine Auger.
hmm
Claudine Auger.
hmm
Uh, oh my gosh, what a beautiful, timeless look she has. Like, she looks so beautiful in this. I love brunettes. I know we got a lot of pretty blondes in the past three movies, but I'm more of a brunette guy. This
hmm
movie has wonderful brunettes. We got Domino, we got Paula, and I like redheads too. My wife is like a mixture of redhead and a brunette, kind of burgundy. So I like redheads and brunettes, but
Uh,
but we get Domino is so beautiful. And she's pretty tall too. You see her walking next to Connery. She probably has heels on, but she looks about as tall as she's got to be close to 6 feet, maybe like 5'10" or something. Tall girl.
Very
Um,
tall,
so
especially with
beautiful,
that '60s
so
hair.
beautiful though. Yeah, yeah. Oh man, oh man, this movie is so gratuitous with the beautiful women though. Like, all the bikinis, all these wonderful suits she's wearing. The cleavage is off the charts in this movie.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good, especially with her and Fiona, who we'll get to in a little bit. And she's such a sweet girl, kind of a kept woman that's kind of abused, and you kind of feel for her. And I think like this is the most romantic Bond movie so far. Like I really like their relationship. I really like how Bond comes onto her and flirts with her, and she's kind of like the unattainable woman because there's kind of like a love triangle too. Like Largo's this meanie that abuses her, that isn't in control of her, and here comes Bond, who you wouldn't think is like would be like a Tinder with the ladies. He's more like a love him and leave him type of guy, but he seems like more of a gentleman than the guy she's with, and she says that too when she's dancing with him. He says, you never find a nice man like your brother. It's always a bad man like me or Largo." And she goes, "Oh,
Mm,
you're not like Largo." And he's like, "How do you tell?" She says, the way you hold me, like you can tell there's like a tenderness, like a soft side of Bond."
yep.
um, and I really love their chemistry. And the part where he confronts her and tells her about her brother being dead, it's probably like one of the only times in a Bond movie I kind of get teary eyed.
hmm
I really love that scene. Yeah, even I always think maybe Bond is getting teary-eyed too because he puts his shades on, his Blues Brothers shades
Oh,
when
and
he's doing that.
it
And
was clear in the Blu-ray.
yeah,
I'd never seen this before, but you
yeah,
could tell when he was holding the brother's dog tag and his watch, and she
yeah,
takes
yeah,
the
yeah,
dog
yeah,
tag and the watch, and his hand is shaking as he gives it to her. Like and
yeah.
I'd never
Oh
noticed that
wow, yeah,
before, but that was like that was the big
yeah,
giveaway
yeah,
there
yeah,
for that. Like yeah, it really was a hard moment for
yeah,
him.
yeah. Yeah, and her acting too, like the tears were flowing out of her eyes. Was pretty good acting. I know it was probably our girl Nikki Vanderzilla was doing the voice, but it
Hmm.
sinks in so well. Yeah, I just love Domino. What do you think of Domino?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. She was amazing as a leading lady for a Bond film. I believe she was
Hmm.
Miss France the year before, maybe, or
Oh, right,
Paris or something.
right,
She
right.
won some big
Yeah, yeah,
pageant, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah, and you can see why. So
Hmm.
continuing that tradition from Daniela Bianchi, right? Won, or
Hmm.
she was either the winner or the runner-up of Miss Italy, I believe, a few years before that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, the Bond films were no
Wow,
strangers to pageant winners and runner-ups.
wow. Yeah. Well, they get the most
Yeah.
beautiful women. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I guess the producers wanted to get Raquel Welch for that role. Did you hear about that?
Oh, I didn't know about that. That would have been wildly different. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, great. She was great in the novel as well too. Really interesting character.
Hmm.
And then I guess the only other girl in this other than the baddie, we'll get to her in a bit. We'll go on to the allies. We have Miss Moneypenny, who's there. Usual stuff is her good as ever. What do you think of Moneypenny?
Yeah, she's great. Again in this film,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
she doesn't get a lot of screen time though in this one.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
for while
yeah,
she's there, it's very good. I think it maintains
yeah,
everything well. So I'm glad
yeah,
she's in the film. You know, they could have cut her
yeah.
out
Me too.
completely. So I'm glad she made
Yeah,
it
yeah.
in.
Yeah, she's usually just in the background, or whatever, giving him messages.
Yep.
The only notable thing I can remember is she takes Bond's hat and throws it on the hat rack. This time, there's always a different little play on the hat
Yep.
stand, and she's making a jab at him, like, "Oh, you can't fool me. You can fool the old man, but you can't fool me."
Right.
And then of course, and then Em is standing there.
Comes out of the door right behind her. It was so
Yeah,
hilarious. I love
yeah,
that scene.
and then yes, and then M himself in this. We don't start off with him in the office giving a briefing. This is a big briefing, and it's in that big meeting room. Very contrast to the Spectre meeting room. This is like big,
Hmm.
high ceiling, like artwork. There's a window you can see like looking out there. Beautiful. More of a warm setting than the Spectre's little meeting room.
Very
But we
British,
have all the
very opulent,
yeah, very British.
very Ken
Yes.
Adams. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, we haven't talked about Ken Adam yet. Yeah, one oh
Yeah.
my yeah, but, uh but we get to see Bond. He's coming in late, his briefing as usual, and he's the last one there. There's a whole group, a whole, lineup of double O's there. They're all this is such a huge Operation Thunderball. They have, like, all the top double O agents on this. Of course, Bond's the last one there. He's the most important one. Um, and M says, "Now that we're all here, we can get started." And then the defense minister or the minister of foreign affairs, or whoever it is laying it all out about the stolen warheads and all that. And what I like about him in this is like he doesn't second guess Bond. Like this is his boy. Like we see him hard on Bond in the other movies, and but in this one, he's like standing up for Bond. Like the Secretary of Foreign Affairs is questioning Bond. Like your man says this guy Duval is dead, but he stole this Vulcan bomber. Like how could what your guy says he was killed though, and M stands up for him, says no. If 007 says he saw him dead, he saw him dead. because he knows he can trust this guy. He's his best guy. I thought that was a cool scene, and he's always the defense or the foreign defense secretary is always taking jab on him is defending him in this movie a lot. I like that. Or we don't get much of him, I guess, as much as usual. But what do you think of him?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It shows how their relationship has expanded over the last few films to where M just trusts him now. And it's kind of like dad, a dad defending his kid on the playground or something,
Yeah. And then I guess that whole scene that you mentioned that they're in the behind the scenes or some production stills. One of the double O's was actually a female.
Yes.
I couldn't spot her in the movie. I couldn't spot her. I think maybe the third chair from the right from the back scene could have been a woman, but then when you see the front view, you don't see her. But I know there was a woman there. That's pretty interesting. A female double O.
They don't show the chair. I mean, it was the third chair, I believe, but according to the documentary I watched. But yeah, you can't see her in the film at all, which I think is kind of unfortunate, honestly, because I think it would have been very interesting and kind of made sense, right? Because we know that Spectre uses women, and the Russians used women, so why would MI6 be any different?
Yeah, I would think a woman would be able to infiltrate a lot more certain things that a man wouldn't be able to do. Like, like I think it would be a good idea to have a female double O in there.
Well, and of course, in the later films, we get a lot of team ups between Bond and female agents from different countries and things like that. But I've always thought it would be really interesting. And I know they did this in No Time to Die, but I thought it would have been cool if just to see what that would have been like in one of the older films.
Oh yes, absolutely. And then our other MI6 regular makes a return as cranky as ever. We get Q going out in the out on the location, bringing his gadgets to Bond. He brings the little jet propelled or some kind of propelled jet pack for scuba diving with all kinds of rockets and harpoons and everything on it. And he has a Geiger counter for him and that wonderful mini underwater breather that we like so much. And apparently, I guess that was something that the Marines were working on. I didn't realize that was a real thing.
Wow.
But we get Q in the Bahamas bringing Bond his equipment. And this is the only scene we see Q in this movie, and he's cranky as ever and as hilarious as ever. What do you think of Q in this movie?
Well, you can tell that he doesn't like to travel. It's not his thing. He gets to take all this equipment to 007 in the Bahamas, a place basically anyone in England in the 60s would have probably died to have just seen, much less been able to fight Spectre in. And all Q can think of is what an inconvenience it is, no doubt, to his research and engineering work back at MI6 headquarters in Q Labs. And he certainly takes out all of his frustrations on 007 as he gives him this equipment.
I love it. Yeah. Notable ally. We have Pinder there, our man Pinder, the station chief down there in the Bahamas, but we didn't really see much of him. And we have Felix Leiter, and this guy, Rick Van Nutter. What's that his name?
Yeah, Rick Van Nutter plays
this
Felix,
guy looks
right?
like Felix Leiter. Yeah, this guy looks like. Yeah, this guy looks like Felix Leiter from the novel. Like the way they describe him, he has like the blondish like straw hair.
Yep.
And I think even the producers even saw the guy and they were like, "Wow, you look like Felix Leiter," and that's kind of like one of the main reasons he got hired on. And he had a contract to play Felix in a few more movies, but I guess unfortunately, Felix wasn't in On Her Majesty's Secret Service or You Only Live Twice, so he never came back. But But I think this guy, as far as looks, probably looks the most like Felix from the novel. What do you think of old Rick Van Nutter?
Yeah, I thought he was a good Felix. It's unfortunate in a way that there were so many Felixes. I mean, there's probably as many Felixes as there are
Yeah,
Bonds, really. Like throughout
yeah,
the
probably
the
more. Yeah,
series.
probably
Yeah,
more.
there's probably more, and
Yeah, probably 1, 2, 3.
it's just interesting that it was such a difficult role to keep a consistent actor
Yeah,
in. But regardless, I think
yeah,
Rick Van Nutter's very good in the role. I think he does a fine job in Thunderball.
hmm
Very believable as a
yeah,
CIA agent.
absolutely. And then on to the villains, I guess. We first start off. I think we already talked about Colonel Bouvard at the
Yep.
beginning, played by stuntman Bob Simmons. We talked about that great fight between Bond
Mm.
and the Colonel in there inside the chateau. Very destructive stuff. Good to see Bob Simmons like make a visual role other than like being a stunt double or doing the gun barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he's an official Bond villain. He plays an official Bond villain, the stuntman, which is pretty cool. And then after that, we get Count Lippy is kind of like the first major baddie player in this. Um, who's at the health clinic, and Bond is kind of suspicious of him. He has a suspicious tattoo on his arm, and there's kind of a little back and forth between them. They're playing tricks on each other. That actor, I've seen him in he was in another Saltzman and Broccoli production. I don't know if you ever saw the Harry Palmer series with Michael Caine.
No, I never did.
He was in Ipcris. He was. It's really good. John Barry does the score too, but uh, but that actor, what is his name? Guy Dolman. He played Count Lippy. He was kind of like one of the M type characters in Ipcris File in that Harry Palmer series with Michael Caine.
Okay.
That's the only thing I ever saw him in. That's the only thing I ever saw him in. But he has a cool, distinguished look. And he has a cool car. He has that '57 Ford that
Oh,
blows up.
nice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
But yeah. What do you think of that character? That was a kind of fun little back and forth that Bond had with him inside the clinic.
Oh yeah, it was fun to see Bond get the best of him after he had been put on the
Yeah,
rack and tied down, and the guy
yeah,
Count Lippy tried to kill him on the rack, and all he did was make it easier
yeah,
for
yeah,
Bond to score with his nurse. Really, that's all that happened.
yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Somebody will wish this day had never or this had never happened. Well, you wouldn't turn me in. Oh, I guess my silence could have a price.
Oh, you don't mean? Oh no. Oh yes.
Oh yes. And then he blows up and then our girl and then we have also in there I think his name is Angelo. He's the guy that gets plastic surgery to look like Derval, Domino's brother. Pretty cool plot where they steal his identity to get inside of the Vulcan bomber to hijack that plane with the warheads.
Yep.
Um, but we have that guy in there, and I wish I could be that guy. I don't think whatever that guy got paid. It was probably too much. You get to, but I'm happy for him. You see that first scene with him; he's making out with Fiona Volpe. Oh man, such a gratuitous scene there, like her cleavage, and she's on him. She's so sexy, that girl, the way she talks and just her mannerism. But that that guy landed a really good job for that role. The first time we see him, he's making out with Luciana there.
Yep.
And then we get and then his double comes in the door, and we get a little bit of that back projection. I didn't realize that was someone actually out in the hallway projecting the other
Yep.
Colonel Duval onto a backstop back there, so that when you see the two guys together, that's back projection, which is pretty cool.
That is the first time I noticed, like, okay, wow, that's really back projection. Like it was kind of glaring, and I'd never noticed it when I watched the film before on the VHS tapes or the DVDs. But there it was like, okay, wow, it's really clear now from the restoration.
Yeah. Then while we're on the subject, we got Fiona Volpe in there. Like we said, probably one of the best. We touched on her a little bit earlier, but we got to talk about her more.
Yeah.
But like probably
we
the
should
first
definitely
film.
we should definitely touch on her more. Don't you think?
Yeah. I wish I could. Yeah. Yeah. Probably the first like proper femme fatale in the series. I don't know. Maybe in all spy movies. I'm not sure, because I know there had been a lot of like Bond ripoff movies by this point. So I don't know if there had been like femme fatales like that before. But we get to see her in the black motorcycle outfit, riding a motorcycle, shooting rockets out of it. She takes her helmet off to reveal her beautiful long red hair. She's good with a shotgun. She has her Ford Mustang. She's a fast driver. She's driving on those little windy roads at 100 miles per hour. Really sexy. Visually, and just the way she talks and presents herself, really sinister too, really evil, really intelligent. Like she kind of seems like on the same level as Largo. Like I don't think Largo can really boss her around. Like she pretty much does her own thing.
Yeah.
She has all of her henchmen bossing them around. So yeah, she's a very powerful character, very sexy. Anything else about Fiona?
I think she steals the show, personally. For me, I think that her character is far more interesting. I think she's the most interesting of the female characters by far, and she's the first proper foil to Bond, I think, in terms of a female villain. She can do all the stuff he does, right? She can shoot guns, she can fight, she can do all these different things. She's a great leader, all that stuff. Like she's really, and that's why I think they up the ante there, like I mentioned before, with just this is a true proper femme fatale. He can't just sleep with her and have her return to the side of righteousness and virtue. Like all the others. Like this is a proper evil woman, and I think there was a song about that in the 70s, but there's just something hits a little harder about him.
Heck yeah. Yeah, and she dies off. Her death scene's pretty cool. I like that scene. It's really an intense scene where he's being chased around through the junk canoe in on the street there in the Bahamas. And I guess that junk canoe was put on by Kevin McClory, who was like a big wig down there. He just and maybe some of the producers too said, "Hey, we're gonna shoot a Bond movie, and we need a junk canoe." I don't even know it was the right season for junk canoe, but we're gonna have a special junk canoe, and we're gonna have a contest who has the best costumes or the best float or whatever. So that was just like a junk canoe they just made for the movie. It looks super. I guess it was genuine. It was the real people from that area doing a real junk canoe.
Right.
Pretty intense scene there with Fiona and her goons chasing around Bond and through the junk canoe, and he actually gets a ricochet bullet in the leg, and he's actually bleeding. We don't see him get injured too much, and that was like one of the more nail biting moments. I remember when I first saw this. He's running around bleeding, leaving a trail of blood, and we have the goons following him. I think these are probably the first like proper like stereotypical henchmen, like in the black outfits, kind of all thuggy looking guys, like kind of like how Dr. Claw or how Inspector Gadget and everything else copies. I think it was like the first Bond movie where there was like the thuggy bunch of henchmen in black, like the stereotype of henchmen. And we got the beautiful femme fatale in her beautiful dress with the blue feather boa and the red hair. She's ordering them around, looking for Bond. And I don't know if you noticed. I didn't notice this until this time. I guess it's big within Bond lore, but there's a stray dog peeing in there. Did you see it?
No, I think
I didn't.
I missed that.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at all. It's super obvious. There's a one scene. There's just a dog standing in the middle of the street during the junk canoe with its leg up peeing, and I guess Peter Hunt took that scene out, but the other guys were like thought it was so funny. No, don't take it out, leave it in there. So there's a little scene where Bond runs by and there's a stray dog in there peeing.
Well, it adds to the whole chaos of the scene, right? There's this big party
Yes,
going
yes,
on, and he's being chased, and
yeah,
there's public urination. People are
yeah,
drunk, so it makes perfect sense, right? A
yes.
dog would be peeing. It adds to the realism of it all. We're in
It
the
does,
islands.
yeah,
We're it's
yeah,
not America.
yeah,
Of course, there's
yeah,
dogs peeing everywhere.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the other thing
If it
is
was, if it were,
about that scene that's kind of
yeah.
interesting. Just wanted to mention quick.
Hmm.
When they filmed it, Terrence Young said he had them. It wasn't going anywhere. He just had them going around a block over and over again
Oh, okay.
to do the
Oh, that's
filming.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought
Yeah,
that
that
was
would be
really cool.
super convenient.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's super convenient. Yeah. And then I guess there was such a big turnout, like thousands of people came by to put on costumes or just to be
Hmm.
onlookers. And I guess there was a group of people that came by with T-shirts that said 007, like fans came. And I never see them at all in the movie, but I guess Terrence Young was saying he couldn't cut all of them out. There's a couple of scenes where there's fans with 007 T-shirts, but I didn't spot them even on Blu-ray. Did you?
I didn't either, but I'll have to look next
Yeah,
time specifically for that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
expect Peter Hunt probably did some fancy work
yeah,
to blur that out or
yeah,
get rid of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then but as I was saying, it ends up in the Kiss Kiss Club, where there's the bongo band up there playing the Kiss Kiss Bang Bang song with bongo drums. It's a really cool rendition of it. I love the music and how it's kind of worked into the soundtrack, and it as the scene climaxes, the bongo drums get louder and louder and louder. And I like the scene where he walks up to the pretty girl at the bar and says, "I love to dance." He just grabs her and takes her out and starts dancing with her. And all the goons are out there scoping him out. And they all have their guns, and Fiona comes over and grabs Bond when he's dancing with the girl, and the girl says, "You didn't tell me your wife was here." And then he starts dancing with her. And she says, "Why don't you come with us?" Just quietly. And he says, "No, you don't understand. I love my dancing." And then you see all the guys with their guns out ready to take him out. And you see that from behind the curtain of the band, the gun come out. And the bongo drums and the music is getting louder and louder and louder. And then right as he sees that the guy's going to pull the trigger, he does kind of like a Goldfinger move where he pulls the girl in front of the Mexican hitman, but he swings her around and they shoot their own boss. And then you see they all get confused and scared, like their brain is gone, like they just lost their and then they all just get confused and run away, like when you take out the leader of a gang or something.
Yep.
And then he's dead in his arms. I always thought that was an intense, nail-biting scene, though, when I first saw it. And then he sits her down at a table there at the club, and he says, "You mind if my friend sits this one out? She's just dead." But yeah, but
That was
really
great.
cool demise. Just like Fatima Blush, though, I wish she would have lasted a little bit longer in the movie.
Oh, me too.
But I mean, the worse he was in there, it counted. It was pretty good.
Yeah, she was great. A lot of fun. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess being a redhead, maybe I think of her as
yeah,
like the evil Anne Margaret. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
just as sexy, just as,
yeah,
sensual, but just the evil twin
yeah,
in this movie.
yeah. Her voice, that Italian accent, is just so hot. And And when he's in bed with her, and he's all saying, "You're an animal. You should be caged." When he's
You can
and
tell
then
Connery really means it.
yeah,
I don't think he was acting.
I know. And then you see like the bed. She's like caressing the bars on the bed, and she says, "I feel like I'm in prison. All these bars." Yeah, but then I guess other than her, the only like notable villain other than Blofeld, who we never don't see his face again, and who's the mastermind. I guess the only other villain there's a few henchmen. I know they have names, but I don't remember any of them. But Vargas, who's a really creepy looking dude, who's like the main henchman of the movie,
Right.
and he gets the point later on.
Yeah, he certainly does.
But I just remember I like the scene in this movie when Bond is at he's at Largo's residence. It's called like Palmyra. It's that pretty house. I don't know if it's on an island or a peninsula or on the beach, but that cool house he has with a swimming pool, and then there's like a shark pool in there too. Oh, and then the little one of his little cronies fails, and he throws his crony in there. I think that guy's name was Quist. That little weasel guy that failed his mission, and the
The
poor little guy,
the little
like
fish. He was the
yeah.
little fish that Bond threw
Yeah,
back, right?
the the little fish. Yeah, I kind of felt bad for him because he's such a little pathetic guy. Not like Mr. Kist from Goldfinger that got killed. I like the good. I was glad when that guy died, but this guy's so weaselly and pathetic. Like I kind of felt bad for him.
Yeah, I did too.
Uh, but Mr. Vargas, I thought had a pretty cool look. He was kind of a creepy looking dude. And I like that scene anyway when they're at his house, and Largo introduces his two henchmen. He goes, "Oh, here's Mister So and So and Mister Vargas." And Bond says, "Which is which?" He goes, "I believe you already met Mister Vargas at the casino." He goes, "Oh yes." And then he offers him a drink, and the other henchman takes the drink, but Vargas doesn't take it. And I always like the line where he says, "Oh, no drink, Vargas." Oh, that's right. Vargas does not drink. He does not smoke. He does not make love. What is it that you do, Vargas?
And then there's that
I
dead
like that.
stare, that dead silent stare. He doesn't say anything.
Yeah, I know. I like that scene. But I guess other than them, I guess we got to the main baddie of this movie is Adolfo Celli that plays Emilio Largo, plays the main baddie in this, and I think this is a good follow-up to Goldfinger. I don't think he's quite on the same level, like that kingly level as Goldfinger, but this guy is super menacing, super scary, and super dislikable. And he has the pirate eye patch, and he almost seems like a pirate, but really powerful, really intimidating, really evil guy. He's really like he mistreats his women. He's a killer. He's physical, kind of like Telly Savalas's Blofeld. Like this guy
Yeah.
can throw down with Bond, and he's out hands on too. He's out scuba diving. He's doing all the missions. Really scary guy. I think they casted him very well, and he's kind of an elegant, suave looking guy too. And he has the big nose, like the powerful nose and the powerful face.
Yep.
And
Very
he's
strong
always
character.
smoking, really very smoking, always elegant. He looks cool the way he holds a cigar. Really confident guy. And I've really well casted, I think, with this guy. In the book, I think he was even scarier. They kind of described him as kind of like Dolph Lundgren in the
Ooh.
novel. He was really big and really buffed. It kind of reminded me of someone like Eric Kriegler or Necros or something from the other movies, like
Wow.
big blonde guy. I don't know if Adolfo, is he blonde or is that gray hair? I can never tell. Sometimes it looks like he's blonde, and sometimes it looks like it's sort of like the salt and pepper gray. I can't really tell. Even with a Blu-ray, I can't. I think it's more like a gray color, but he looks blonde sometimes when he's in the water.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
the
what it
guy
is.
in the novel, yeah, the guy in the novel seemed like super intimidating. Like Bond cannot match him physically
Hmm.
in the novel. He's just so big and strong guy. I kind of think like maybe like a Dolph Lundgren type physique and look. He was in the book, but I think this guy was really good. I don't know if he's that tall, but he has like a stout, like solid physique and suave looking. I thought Adolfo was pretty good in this role. What do you think of Emilio Largo, number 2?
Yeah, Adolfo was very well cast, I think, in the role. He does
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really well. He's a great actor. You really get that vibe of just how sinister
Mm-hmm.
this character is, from not
Mm-hmm.
only the eye patch,
Mm-hmm.
but just everything, the way he carries himself. He crosses the street in the first scene you see him in Paris, and he barely moves out
Yeah,
of the way of this car, like just as he
yeah,
crosses the street, and that immediately establishes this sense of this guy is larger than life. He's just
yeah,
very capable, intimidating. He's not afraid of anything. You get that
yeah.
vibe
Even the
like
cop.
immediately.
Yeah, yeah. Even the cops are afraid of him. Like, hey, you can't park here. And then he sees who it is. Okay, you're good.
Yeah. Mr. Largo, yeah.
Yeah,
That was very funny.
yeah,
But and then he goes, of course, into the sort of Amnesty International type place
yeah,
in Paris. That's really just a front for Spectre, and
yeah,
uses his remote control device to get through 2 doors, right, to get into the Spectre
yeah,
meeting room. And the first time you see a bunch of Spectre agents in one place at the same time,
yeah.
with Blofeld going over the
Hmm.
business, and then what further establishes his character is there's been a misappropriation of funds from one of their
Yeah,
capers, one of their schemes,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Blofeld decides to cut some overhead as a result of it, and
yeah.
it takes a write off, and and just barbecues this guy in his chair from
Yeah,
remote control,
yeah,
and you see the flashing and the
yeah,
screaming, the flashing on Largo's
yeah,
face, and Largo's just flipping through his
yeah,
notes, doesn't even take notice of this
yeah,
guy being
yeah,
barbecued across the table from
yeah,
him. And it's
yeah,
just so
yeah,
good, so well done for how sinister he
yeah,
is.
yeah. And all the
Mm.
other guys are scared, like they're all scared and shaking,
Yep.
and Largo's just sitting there.
Yep. Not
Yeah,
even phased at all. Just another Tuesday morning at the
yeah,
office.
yeah,
uh, but the other thing is we have to mention how amazing that set was by Ken Adams. Like
yes,
the
yes,
set was just so perfectly sinister.
yeah,
It's an office, but it's the way that it's
yeah,
organized, the art decor for the chairs, the way they're designed.
yeah, mm-hmm,
These it's There's an elegant simplicity to all of the tech in the room, all of the
yes,
microphones
yeah,
with the desks. Everything is very
yeah,
clean, and it
yeah,
had that sort of sinister, almost Nazi kind of vibe to it. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that
like, yeah,
yeah.
like no windows and like a low ceiling and no windows and yeah,
hmm
very sinister,
The
very
whole
clean and
room,
sinister.
the
Yeah,
whole room felt very
yeah,
Gestapo to me. Like
yeah, yeah, it
looking at
did, yeah. Yeah, it's probably like the most iconic Spectre scene ever. Like, of course, Austin Powers copies that.
Yep.
That's like the scene that's like the set you think of when you think of Spectre's a boardroom or what. I know I did really like the one in Spectre, but this is probably my favorite. Like, I like the one that Christoph Waltz had. That was really
Yes.
eerie. Um, but this one's forgot to be my favorite. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and one other thing I wanted to mention about Ken Adam, the set designer on the film. Obviously, all of the sets were fantastic. The settings for both Spectre and MI6, all of that was very well done. The location for Largo's villa, he designed the Disco
Mm.
Volante yacht, Largo's yacht, that splits in half in the film,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah,
actually functional. Like that actually worked. That was not
yeah,
fake. That was not a model.
yeah.
That
It's
was a real
crazy.
ship that they did. That Ken Adam designed. And he also said in the film extras that this was the film that he learned anything that he designed at the sketchboard at the table. some engineer would figure out how to make it work, and so he went
Wow.
nuts with his designs because they had the money and everything else that they could do it. This is why like the underwater stuff, the submarines and everything that carry the bombs,
Yeah,
the little one man
yeah.
little mobile sub things, like they all worked. All of their harpoon systems actually worked. They actually had somebody got injured actually getting shot by one of the harpoons on the boats by mistake. Like that was,
Oh no.
yeah, there was
Wow.
a mishap that happened. Fortunately, no one was killed or anything. He was okay, but yeah,
Okay.
that was a real issue because this stuff actually worked. And who would have thought that for this extremely
Wow.
exotic equipment in this film? And so 60s too. If you look at the
Wow.
designs of those subs, like it
Yeah.
has this amazing 1960s aesthetic to it. It's so iconic to
Yes.
that time period, and we have Ken Adam to thank for
Yeah.
that entirely.
Yeah. Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. And then he designed the little Sean's little like propulsion device or
yeah, he designed that too. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, just a
Yeah, and I
very
guess it was the
cool
yeah.
thing. Very cool
I
designer.
guess it was supposed to have a yeah, I guess it was supposed to have a smoke screen on it, like the sub in Spy Who Loved Me, but I think
Right,
they used it when he's like when he's going at high speeds, when he's getting to the battle. I think they used it then to make it look more dramatic or whatever. But I think it
right,
was supposed to have that what do you got like a smoke screen. But I mean, he used a bunch of other gadgets on it. That was pretty cool. That was
right.
almost like the car of the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Because he really wasn't in the
yeah,
car at all, except for, well, he was in
yeah,
the car a
yeah,
little bit, but he
yeah,
didn't really get
yeah,
to use it at that point, right? Because Fiona killed
yeah,
the Count
yeah,
on her bike.
yeah, yeah.
So
And then he
yeah.
he ended up blowing up Q's equipment.
Well, you'd be surprised how rough it
Yeah,
gets out there in the field.
yeah, yeah. Heck yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And then Largo meets his demise at the end of this movie, not by Bond, but this is the second time the Bond grill gets in the killing blow on the villain, but not before there's a badass fight scene on the aboard the Disco Volante as it's charging towards an island. It's on the like the Hydra foil moat and it's going super fast on the ocean and Bond is in there in the control room or the cockpit or the bridge or whatever you would call it, and he's fighting like three guys at once, and one of them's Blofeld. Man, he's really throwing down in this fight. It kind of reminds me of the Bob Simmons fight early on, but even more compact with more people he's fighting, and and like the stakes are really high. Like there's a bomb on this thing, and he's fighting all these guys at once, and including Largo. Yeah, that's a really cool fight, really fast paced. So, yeah, what do you think of the ending of this movie? The end fight scene.
I mean, it's a very exciting fight scene. The filming of it was
Yeah.
really intense. Terrence Young said
Mm-hmm.
that it was harder than the filming they did on the water. Actually, they had a
Yeah.
set in England for this boat at Pinewood, I
Yeah.
think, and the set was
Yeah.
made to rock and simulate what it would be like in a high speed, yacht with the
Yeah.
waves and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole set's moving all over the place while they're trying to film
Mm-hmm.
this epic
Mm-hmm.
fight, and it took them days to
Mm-hmm.
do it, I believe, to get everything they needed.
Yeah.
But he said it was harder than actually filming on the water, which I thought more intense,
Yeah.
which I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so like a lot went into that scene. I think the editing is great as far as the action goes. The choreography
Mm-hmm.
was obviously very complex to do
Mm-hmm.
all of that with three people in that enclosed
Mm-hmm.
space and
Mm-hmm.
and make it somewhat coherent. And my only complaint is the back projection that they used. You can really see
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
clearly in the Blu-ray, and it was this way even when I was a kid. I remember on the
Yeah.
VHS tape the back projection scenes they used weren't ideal.
Yeah.
A lot of them really look like the boat's just already gonna hit the island. Like there are like
Yeah.
different land
Yeah.
masses throughout it. Like it looks pretty
It
cheesy now.
reminds me of. It looks like Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, it
Like
is a little like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the spirit of it is there. You can
Yeah.
tell, like, they were really trying
Yeah.
to go for that
Hmm.
excitement, and
Yeah.
really for the movie theater going audience too, right? Not such a critical eye.
Yeah.
You and I, we both seen the film so many times,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but going to see it in the movie theater, I'm sure it was very thrilling, and
Yeah.
people probably didn't notice it that much at the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I always thought it looked kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, so at the end of the fight, though, it looks like Largo's gonna kill him. Largo gets the gun and it looks like he's gonna shoot Bond, but then here comes Domino with a spear gun. After she'd been abused, like he found out she had the Geiger counter, and so he started torturing her with ice and a cigar. But then the little Weasley's tech scientist guy, I think his name was Coots.
Hmm.
He rescues her. He had a change of heart and rescued Domino, and then here she comes with a spear gun. Right when you think Bond is gonna die, she shoots him in the back, and it was a pretty satisfying moment. After she'd been a kept woman all this time, and then after being abused and tortured, she comes up and shoots that guy. I'm glad I killed him. She says. So that was a pretty cool demise. And in the book, same thing happens. Largo is such like a overpowering force. Like you think he's gonna kill Bond, but I guess it's not really a spoiler because you already know how it ends. But here Domino, but she's actually in scuba gear and it's underwater when she finds him and shoots him. They're having a fight
Mm.
underwater, so it's more similar to Never Say Never Again's ending when Kim Basinger shows up and shoots him.
Hmm.
So it's more similar to that, but I do like this ending. And while we're talking about underwater fighting, what do you think of that underwater battle? There's like an underwater
Hmm.
fight scene between two armies or two factions.
Yep.
Frogmen war underwater with spear guns and sharks and and
Yep.
lobsters, and what a cool fight! Like Moonraker is my favorite Bond movie.
Right.
And to me, this movie feels like Moonraker from the '60s.
Hmm.
But other than like in space, it's underwater. I just love this thing. I know people say it drags on for too long. Even Peter Hunt was saying, I think it drags on. It takes like 9 or 10 minutes. This whole fight,
Hmm.
and he said I had it 4 minutes. He originally had it 4 minutes, but they
Yep.
said no, we love this. We want more. So he put it up to 10 minutes, which he thinks is a little too much. I guess you probably could have got it done quicker than that, but all of it is beautiful. Like if you can do something like that, you might as well show all the footage you can because that's just something amazing. I don't think anything like that had happened in cinema before. I don't think that something like that has ever happened since. What do you think of the underwater battle?
It's so epic in everything, like
Yeah.
the money they spent on it, and not just
Hmm.
like you're talking about the armies fighting, which by itself is really impressive. What came to the screen, but you gotta think
Yeah.
about what it took to produce that. For every
Yeah.
person you see underwater, think that there's probably at least one, if not two, other people down there for the crew and that was involved with setting it all
Yeah.
up, filming
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
There were a ton of
Hmm.
people underwater to make this movie,
Hmm.
right? And to
Hmm.
do it all, they had guys that were just dealing with the sharks, right? They had to
Yeah.
capture the sharks and try to point
Hmm.
them in the direction they wanted them to swim and hope that the shark would go
Yeah.
that way. They had to do multiple takes
Yeah.
often just to try to get the sharks to go where they wanted them to go.
Yeah. I think during one scene, like one got too close to someone, they had to shoot it. I think you
Hmm.
even see it during the movie, like a spear actually hits a shark,
Yes.
which I guess is kind of cruel. I don't like to see cruel things happen to animals for no reason.
Yeah, I don't
Like if we're
either.
making a movie, but I guess like if you're afraid the shark's gonna get you and you kill it, you might as well use the footage, I
Yeah,
guess.
I
But
guess so.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But what an undertaking though to do it
yeah,
underwater, a battle like that. I mean, this is also we had a pretty big battle at the end of Goldfinger, as far as the American military fighting Goldfinger's troops and all the Chinese guys and all that, but it was not anywhere near the level of the
Yeah,
battle at the
yeah,
end of
yeah.
Thunderball in terms of just how long it went on, the
No,
violence involved, like the unique ways. They also said this too.
no.
The director really wanted, and I guess the stunt guys too, they wanted to show as many different underwater deaths that they could, like types of deaths. They did the spear guns, the knives,
Yeah,
they
pretty,
cut
pretty.
the air off,
Yeah,
they destroyed the tanks. Bond uses that explosive device.
yeah,
They get hit with the
yeah,
harpoon
pretty.
guns
Yeah,
off of the
gruesome
underwater
of it.
little submarine things. Yeah,
Yeah,
they get crushed by the underwater equipment. All this stuff. Like, there's a lot of underwater violence in this movie. So I think that this film definitely upped the ante in terms of the action. Just the amount of people involved in action sequences was definitely the
yeah,
highest of any of the other films. Just for that underwater battle alone,
yeah.
it was
Yes.
huge.
Yeah, like you were saying, there were so many kills under there. Some was pretty darn gruesome too. Like it's hard to watch some of that, like the divers getting impaled with harpoons, or they're getting stabbed, or they're getting shot in the back of the head with a harpoon. Or I
Yep.
like the scene too where Bond lures them into the sunken wreckage, and then he goes out a different way, and he leaves his pack, his little propel machine down there, and then the three guys go down there to find him. And then he drops a grenade down there and blows them all up.
Yep.
It
That
was
was
it was
good.
kind of reminiscent of From Russia with Love, the gypsy fight. The way he was not really so much just creating chaos, but he'd go around and be helping people out.
Right.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of From Russia with Love, gypsy fight scene, but on a huge scale underwater.
Somehow he manages to rise above all of the chaos around him. That same
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly
He
it. Yeah,
controls the situation despite the fact that it's a totally
yeah,
out of control situation.
yeah. And then we get our favorite ending. All my endings in, or all my movies end like this, baby. We get our wonderful ending where after after she kills Largo, they jump off of the Disco Volante, and it crashes into the sea stack or the island, and they end up on the raft. And then so that's like, I guess that's the first time other than Doctor No it's been out on the ocean on the raft. Typical Bond stuff, like the stereotypical Bond ending that the Austin Powers parodies. But then there's that weird escape mechanism, and I always thought it was the stupidest thing, but I guess that's a real procedure like the Navy uses, or the Air Force, or on sea rescues, where they send up the balloon and then the plane comes by and grabs it
Mm-hmm.
with that contraption in front of the plane. So I guess that's pretty cool. I always thought it was stupid, he's just holding her, like it would just rip them in half.
Right.
A plane going by at 300 miles an hour. but,
Well,
but I
I
guess
do.
that's a real.
I don't think he'd
Yeah,
be able to hold on to her, and without a
yeah,
harness. Like, I think that he'd have been ripped away from her at the very least.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But we get them flying up, and they're all happy, and it flies away, and it's playing the one John Barry composed that Monty Norman wrote. They used the original Bond theme, which is pretty cool at the end of this movie.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what do you think of the ending?
Well, it's all his movies end that way after it, right? So it established
Yeah.
the trope, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. Well, really, you could
Yeah.
argue that
Yeah.
started with Doctor No and the boat, right? But
Yeah.
um, yeah, there is something a little more exciting about the way Thunderball ends, I think, with
Yeah.
that aerial rescue.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's larger than life. The fact that they can hold on to each other there too is, I guess, sort of symbolic of how strong their relationship
Yeah.
had become by the end of the movie.
Right. Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
So after dropping Largo's dead weight on the sea bank,
Mhm. Yeah.
that last bomb. But yeah, it's a great ending. It's a great movie. It's
Yeah.
really fun. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing is, some of those back projection scenes didn't age that well, but
Yeah.
it's great to see them in high def. Again, the clarity
Yeah.
of all of it,
Yeah.
these negatives, these film negatives,
Mm-hmm.
fully restored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still super fun. You can tell that it was a
Mm-hmm.
really fun movie to make as well.
Yeah. For me, like I said, it's probably one of the later movies I saw as a kid. The movies that had been out at the time.
Yeah.
So I think I was kind of underwhelmed the first time I saw it because I had already seen Never Say Never Again. And I know over the years I hear like this movie has a bad rap. Like I hear people talking trash. I don't know if you watch Calvin Dyson on YouTube. He's kind of like the James Rolfe of James Bond content. He's
Mm,
really good, like James Rolfe to video games. He's probably is to Bond.
sure.
He's probably the best one out there. There might be bigger ones than him, but he's the one I know of. But I know he reviewed all the Bond movies, and he can't stand this one.
Oh,
Like
that's interesting.
yeah, and I remember he did a video of it, and I even kind of started second guessing myself, though all the criticism he was pointing at this movie, like, yeah, maybe it does suck. And then, I think he's changed his opinion over the years. Like I think he likes it more now. But after I watched that video, I went back and watched Thunderball maybe like 5 or 10 years ago, and I was like, hell no, Thunderball is awesome. And I think this time, kind of a fresh look at it. First time I've seen it in several years, and the first time I've seen it since I read the novel. I think I like it more than ever, and I think I might make a bold statement. I think it might be my favorite one so far, which is a big
Whoa.
statement because I always placed it below all of the other ones. It's such a spectacle, this movie.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Moonraker. It really has the Moonraker feel right down. There's a junk canoe in it. I know that's not technically a junk canoe in Moonraker down there in Brazil, but there's like the parade.
Yep.
Um, and there's the underwater battle, and there's henchmen,
Mm-hmm.
and a big over the top villain. Yeah, I just really like this movie. The romance, like I was saying, the relationship with him and Domino. I really like his relationship with Tatiana, and I thought it was cool in Goldfinger how he kind of turned over the evil woman to the good side.
Mm-hmm.
But this one with Domino, I thought it was really romantic, and I really loved the scenery, all the Bahamas scenery. When they're poolside and when he first meets her and they're having their little conversation, like, man, this movie is super romantic, super beautiful movie, super suspenseful, more nail biting than the previous movies.
Sure.
Kind of a lot of parts. It's darker and more gruesome than the last few. Like all those terrible underwater deaths and the sharks eating people in this movie. I really like this movie, and the score, like I said, the musical score in this is definitely, if it's not my favorite movie of the bunch so far, it's definitely my favorite score.
Mm-hmm.
The music in this, just even like the underwater music or when he's sneaking around the health clinic. I just love the music in this, the soundtrack.
Yep.
So my opinion of this has drastically changed over the years. I can't believe I'm saying this because I don't think like Goldfinger is always in my top three, but I
Right.
guess I have a right to change my opinion. And I think
Absolutely.
after reading the book, like the book was such a huge impact on me because that's when the books really started to ramp up. Like they started feeling like the movies once I got to Thunderball.
Okay.
And once I got to Thunderball, like these things are like they feel like movies now. Like they're on such a grand scale.
You had mentioned that Felix is in the
Oh, go ahead.
Frogman battle right after he loses his hand in the book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, not right after, but it's probably a couple of years after that. But
Mm.
he's like he has his hook hand, and he's probably in the story more than he is in the movie. And I always like their little interactions, like when they're out at a bar together or whatever, having conversations. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean that by itself
yeah,
is impressive to me as far as the books go. I think that's a
yeah,
really
yeah,
cool
yeah,
thing that Felix could be in the
yeah,
fight after he'd lost the hand.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and there was an underwater battle in the books, so like I could imagine like the producers and the creators of the movie be like, how the hell are we supposed to make this book into a movie? And I guess it was originally going to be the first movie, but thankfully it wasn't because they didn't have the resources or the budget. Then it probably would have looked really cheap.
Oh
It's a good
yeah,
thing that they started with Doctor No. The good thing
definitely.
they started with Doctor No. Yeah, so I'm glad they saved this for when they had $6 million.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. What about you, Wubs? Though, has your opinion changed, or what do you think about the movie now after our most previous viewing?
The movie is great. Like I said at the beginning, even like in many ways it's the ultimate summer blockbuster type Bond film. Everything
Yeah.
is just larger than life.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's really done, done up, you know,
Mm-hmm.
putting on the nines or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's hard to not like this movie. I feel like some part of it. I
Yeah.
could see how some people might think, oh, it's too fast or there's too much going on or whatever. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
definitely is a gear shift change from the first three. The
Mm-hmm.
first three are much slower movies overall.
Yeah.
They're slow burns because
Yeah.
it was a new style really to do action movies like the way they were doing, and people were very used to
Mm-hmm.
going to slower movies like and detective stories and things where there's not a lot of action. The action
Yeah.
sequences are few and far between. It's more about the story and the mystery
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that. And so
Yeah.
Thunderball really feels like, in some ways, the first real action movie of the bunch. As far as, like you said, it was ahead of its time. It feels more like a
Yeah.
modern or something from the 80s, that sort of thing. And I think that's why,
Yeah.
because there's just so much more action in it. And
Yeah.
that's the first over the top Bond film with action. I mean, not that the others don't have their action sequences, they definitely do, and they're great.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's way it's just it doesn't hit as hard as Thunderball, with all the
Yeah.
constant action that happens in Thunderball. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, the plot itself is like the clock is ticking right from the beginning. So the
Yeah.
tension is
Yeah.
there.
Race
Bond's
against
on a
time. Yeah.
timeline. Felix is on a timeline. They've got to find these
Yeah.
bombs. They don't have a lot of
Yeah.
time to do it,
Yeah.
and that adds to
Yeah.
the tension of it, and it makes the action that much more intense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so as far as how, if my opinion on it's changed or not, I don't think it really has. I think I always thought it was
Mm-hmm.
an entertaining movie.
Oh, good.
I
Yeah.
always thought it was a good Connery film, and I never
Mm-hmm.
really, there's not really a lot about it that I didn't like. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's always been one that I really enjoyed. I don't know if I would personally rank it
Mm-hmm.
higher than Goldfinger and From Russia with Love, and I think part of that is just
Yeah.
how iconic those two are. But I can
Yeah.
appreciate them as all being. I mean, that trilogy is so different. Every film is so
Mm-hmm.
different from each other. So
Yeah.
it's like Thunderball is
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
more action-oriented Bond adventure than than those other two, but they're all great for different
Yeah.
reasons, right?
Yeah. Thunderball has a little bit of all of them, but kind of ramped up a bit.
I would say that
Like it has a little bit of
oh
little bit
yeah,
of Doctor No, a little bit of Goldfinger. Yeah.
mm-hmm, yeah, a little bit of From
Mm-hmm.
Russia with Love, in some ways with his
Yeah.
relationship with Domino. She's
Yeah.
this woman who's
Yeah. Yeah.
in this distressful situation, kind of like Tatiana, even though Tatiana
Yeah.
isn't fully aware
Yeah.
of her situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does have elements of the ones that came before it for sure, and
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought of it this way before, but if you take those three films, From Russia with Love, Goldfinger,
Mm-hmm.
and Thunderball, that's a pretty great summary of James Bond history and movies and even the video games, like things that are covered, how
Yeah.
things are done, like like
Yeah.
everything that came after that in the films can in all of the
Mm-hmm.
movies could probably be traced back to one of those three films.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe the next two might you could trace it back to the next two, like with the big uh volcano layer in the next one, and
Yep.
I'm thinking there hadn't been a snow ski chase or snow ski movie until Our Majesties, and that was kind of like a staple.
Oh yeah.
Ever since then, there have been quite a few like snow. Yeah, but especially those first three you mentioned, I think like that's pretty much a Bond in a nutshell.
In terms of the trope, right? The whole thing of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
this is a secret agent. He has all these gadgets, the
yeah,
cars, the women, the
yeah,
plots, and these larger than life
yeah,
villains,
yeah,
both male and female,
yeah, yeah,
and how he deals
yeah,
with them. Like all of that goes back to those first three
yeah,
films. And
yeah, they do.
also not just dealing with uh, enemy governments, right? Like Soviet
Mm-hmm.
Russia, the Cold War, things like
Yeah,
that, but also dealing
mm-hmm.
with Spectre and
Yeah,
private corporation that's very evil, that sort of thing. So
yeah,
he fights all these
yeah,
different types of enemies too.
yeah, yeah. And at the end of this movie, it says Bond will return. And I think on the later presses of it, it says what actually happened. You only live twice. But from what I've been hearing, the original theatrical release of this, it was supposed to be on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Was I guess in the original theatrical run of this, it says James Bond will return in on Her Majesty's Secret Service. I
Ah,
guess we'll get to the behind. I guess we'll get to the behind the scenes on that next time
okay.
when we talk about when we talk about You Only Live Twice. Are you excited for You Only Live Twice?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big fan of
Yeah,
Japanese culture, have been since I was a kid. So I
yeah,
love that movie because so much of it takes place in
yeah,
Japan. And
yeah,
we meet one of his my personal favorite Bond accomplices in that film, the Japanese, well, several actually, Japanese agents, Mr. Tanaka
yeah,
and
yeah. I
Akiko.
love Tiger Tanaka. Yeah,
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 also.
yes. Yeah, I
So.
love them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're great. The one of the best one of my personal favorite cars in the series
yeah.
too. The Toyota 2000 GT is in that film.
Oh yeah.
A car which they only made, I believe,
Oh yeah. Her little Toyota.
351. There were only 351 Toyota
Oh
2000
wow.
GTs ever made. Two of them made specifically for this film
Whoa.
that are
Wow.
convertibles, and I believe there were the only two convertibles
Wow.
made of that car ever.
How cool.
So yeah, just a
Yeah.
little early trivia to for those interested for the next episode.
Yeah.
We'll be diving deep into to
Mm-hmm.
all of those juicy details.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. And it's been a while since I've seen this one. And I'm thinking I'm really going to be blown away. I'm pretty sure the budget, I haven't researched it lately, but I'm pretty sure the budget on that one's even more than this one.
Yeah, it must be for that volcano
Yeah.
sequence at the end with all of
Yeah.
the ninjas.
Oh,
It's
yeah. Yeah.
massive
Yeah. We
what
get,
they did.
oh, wow. We get ninjas. Yeah. We get ninjas. We get samurais. We get
Yep.
under volcano layers. So we get sumos.
Oh, and you can't forget Donald Pleasance makes the first
Yes.
full
Oh,
frontal appearance
the
of
yes.
Blofeld in the series.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, so I guess next time, unless we end up doing our Casino Royale 54 or 57. When was that Casino Royale?
So yeah,
Oh no,
we were what
67.
the 67.
67.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, 67 or the 54 one too. I guess
Right.
we could work those in. But if not, I guess the schedule is to move on to You Only Live Twice, and I can't wait for that. We'll keep you informed if we just change our plans if we decide to do one of the Casino Royales. And I think we'll just save Never Say Never Again for the 80s. What do you
All right.
think?
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah,
a fun thing to do in the
yeah,
80s because by that point people will be
yeah,
missing
yeah,
Sean Connery. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I don't think I could go. I can't go the whole rest of the time with no Sean Connery. But yeah,
yeah.
and also, and that means we're coming up on your favorite pretty soon, on Her
Oh
Majesty's
yeah.
Secret Service.
Boy, I can't tell you how excited I am to watch the Blu-ray of that, to see it fully
Oh yeah,
restored. I am just
yeah.
so excited. Can't tell you.
You know what yeah, you know what I'm hoping for with that? I always thought that movie was so darn hard to see. I don't know if it's a fault of the movie or the cinematography, but take a look at Thunderball and Goldfinger. Like it's so easy to see stuff at night. Like it's sort of lit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it's really hard to see stuff. It's almost like they just started filming at nighttime with no lighting.
Yes.
I'm hoping I can see it better on the Blu-ray.
I hope so too, because
Because
I feel the
I don't
same
know if it,
way.
yeah, yeah, I don't know if it's a fault of the cinematography or the lighting of the movie, or it's intended to be like that, but it's just so darn hard to see some of the ski scenes. But I would love to see that with some clarity. And even the opening scene, one of our favorite scenes, it might be your favorite scene, the
Mm-hmm.
introduction to Bond in that movie.
Yep.
A lot of it's so dark. I would love to see that. I can't wait to see it restored, to see if I can see that a lot better.
I hope so as well, because
But
I'm wondering if
yeah,
maybe it was also just an issue with the prints that we saw
yeah,
on the
yeah,
tapes and DVDs in the
yeah,
past. They may not have been of the best quality.
yeah, yeah. I'm hoping so. Yeah, yeah. That one might be winning me over as favorite movie if that happens.
Wow. Well,
It's up there. It's up there for me. But I know it's your favorite,
yep.
and I know every time I watch that movie, I like it more. And especially now, I haven't seen it since I read the book, and I freaking love the book. It's very similar to the movie. I know every time I watch On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I like it more and more. I think when it really clicked for me was when I was watched, Adele Ray, the cable channel that plays like old like cult classics and old
Mm-hmm.
like old. I think Robert Rodriguez owns it. I
Oh,
remember
okay.
maybe like 5 or 10 years ago, I watched it on Del Rey on television over at my in laws' house, and it's like that's when it sort of snapped, like the light turned on, like there was an epiphany, and I was like, wow, this movie is so freaking good. So
Well, I
yeah,
I
so
I would be lying to you if I didn't think that it
yeah,
was a acquired taste that only the most
yeah,
sophisticated
yeah,
Bond fans find themselves appreciating over time.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's come around with a lot of people. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But man, what a great time watching Thunderball, and I'm glad I got to talk to you about Thunderball.
Oh, it's
Um,
fantastic. Thank you so much.
yeah,
As always, it's a joy to do this
yeah,
series. I look forward to
yeah,
it every week. And
yeah.
we're so blessed to have this Blu-ray set with these restored
Yes,
films from the negatives, all the commentaries that have been assembled.
yeah,
Anyone, I have
yes.
to say, I know I'm not getting money, I promise, from United Artists for saying this at all. But if you are a Bond fan, you owe it to yourself to get the Blu-ray set of all the Bond films
Mm-hmm.
that's been released.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely owe it to yourself to see what they've done. Full restorations from the film negatives. Again, we've
Yeah,
said it so many times. It looks like these movies were just filmed. That's how good they look
yeah.
in this set. Fully restored audio, video, and the
Mm-hmm.
commentaries are amazing. The amount of special features, it's hard for us to get through it in a week because there's so
Yeah,
many commentaries
yeah,
and special
yeah.
features and
There's multiple.
documentaries they
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple commentaries on each movie. Yeah. I can't wait till we get to Roger Moore. I know he did a commentary for all of his movies, I think, and then there's like the director commentary on top of that. Um, yeah, so I can't wait to get to Roger Moore's and listen to his commentaries again.
That'll be excellent, especially for Live and Let Die.
Yeah,
I can't wait for Live and Let
yeah,
Die as well. Another one I'm
yeah,
looking forward
yeah.
to.
Oh wow, yeah. I think we're still on track here. We still have a lot of good ones to go.
Oh yeah.
It might even get better. I know we've already passed a few of the top movies, or a couple of them, but I think it's probably going to stay just as good or get better from here on out.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be great. I'm sure. Like I'm excited. It's going to be a great summer.
Yeah. So I guess we'll end it there, unless you have any other announcements on your other channel.
No, nothing really specifically. The next video is coming out probably next weekend, I expect, for my top 5
good.
for anyone who's interested.
Okay, yeah.
I'm interviewing
Excellent.
our mutual friend, Retro Tiburon, about his top 5 favorite video games, and he's got some bangers. So definitely check that out when it releases next weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait. And you'll probably have another one released too before this is uploaded.
Oh, that's true.
So yeah. So just go check out. I'm sure by the time I upload this, he'll have a few up. Just go check out my top 5. I'm sure he'll have 3 or 4 of them by then, or maybe even 5. So yeah, go check out Wubs' top 5. Great stuff.
We'll put a link down below.
Yep. Yeah. I'll put a link down there. But great time we had. Had fun watching Thunderball. I'm glad I was able to watch it twice. I didn't think I was going to have time this week, but I got to watch it once without commentary, the way it was intended to, and then I watched it once with the Peter Hunt commentary. What a fascinating guy that Peter Hunt is. I love all of his stories, and really gives you a lot of knowledge about editing and filmmaking.
Well, I was just gonna say it's great that you watched that one, because I watched the one with Terrence Young.
Yeah.
So we had the full experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Excellent stuff. So I can't wait for the next one. You Only Live Twice. We'll see you then. If not, we'll see you before then with a different video, perhaps one of the Casino Royales. But we'll plan on doing You Only Live Twice next. So we'll see you then. You got anything else, Wubs?
You expect me to talk more?
No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die.
Well done, boys. Another successful mission. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this debriefing, please like and share it with your friends.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die.